All right, guys, this is the second time we've done this intro. Got about 2 minutes in, and Cole decided to get up and walk away.
My bad. Sorry.
But we got off day kind of somewhat today because of rain out, lovely Florida weather. So we decided we take a little bit of time, do a deep dive into the last couple league files, and take a look at what's been going on and discuss a few of the things of note.
Yeah, I've been really interested in international free agency, going through it for the first time, finding out the $5 million guys. Why are they getting, why are people taking those chances? And then, also interested in the guys who signed for 600,000. Why not wait and, see if you can get more money too?
Yeah, and speaking of $5 million guys, we were talking the other day in the main chat room about the three that signed last year: Eloy Jimenez, Sixto Sanchez, and Juan Soto. I think a good spot to look at when talking about the $5 million guys so far for this year is maybe looking at the guys who were last year and the hits and misses.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Eloy, he's already in the major leagues. A little surprising.
Mm-hmm. To be in the bigs so quickly is surprising. But he is 22, so he is on the older side of these guys, and he's doing all right. He's not great, but
if he played for this entire season, which he will not end up, he's at 67 service days, so you're not going to get a full year yet, but you're looking at about 2 WAR on pace is what he's up for an entire season, which certainly isn't too bad. Most people will definitely take that out of a rookie. But a lot of scouts don't believe that he's fully developed, so it's a little interesting that he's been rushed this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wanted to point out is he played 16 games last year in short season ball. The guys that play short season ball are recent college draftees or like the Latin guys or the high school signees who are playing pro ball for several years.
Mm-hmm.
He got just 16 games there. There's travel tournaments with 16 games in a weekend.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I'm like, that's...
And then, he did play winter ball, which you haven't gotten to experience it. Yes, he did pretty well in winter ball. And, yes, he crushed the 16 games that he was in last year. But, this is a guy, 39 games. And then he makes his major league debut.
Yeah, that's unheard of, especially the jump from low A to then double A for 3 games.
I think the last time that those 3 games though came after like midway through the season.
Yeah,
he played winter ball and then made his major league debut. Oh, he played throughout the season, spring training. He played the first game of the year at Double A, and then was immediately promoted on the 5th of the month. He played one day. He then went back down couple months later, about 2 months later, for 2 days in what I think is a rehab stint. Yeah, a rehab stint.
Yeah.
And then came back and has been on the major league roster since. It's mind-boggling. Thankfully he's done pretty well, but it'll be really interesting to see if this does ever end up stunting his growth, or if he's just starting to hit his stride as he ends up going into free agency, and the Giants potentially miss out on that.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bold strategy, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how he develops over time.
One of the other big signings was Sixto Sanchez, signed originally by the Rockies, just sent in a trade to Toronto. Again, Toronto seemingly continues to get prospects time and time again, somehow, some way. I don't remember, who was this deal wrapping up for?
I don't remember I think the initial deal was done before I was in the league or very beginning.
Let's see if I can find it here. The thing is, Colorado and Toronto both make a decent number. It was the Tim Hampton deal. And don't get me wrong, Tim Hampton is a perfectly fine piece. But this is a guy who, well, has sucked in Colorado. Let me put it. Somehow he's the one person who can't hit in Colorado. But this is a guy who, it's been a couple of years since he's actually put up anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2016, not even one WAR. 2017, 0.3 WAR. 2018, not even one WAR. And 2019, he's currently on pace for 0.
Well, then the negative WAR while playing at Colorado is not.
But even that, I mean, 0.9 in 33 games, yeah, but he was a fourth outfielder.
Yeah.
You just got back a guy that Colorado dropped the max amount on and has been pitching pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
And looks like I'm not going to say ace. I think he's just off of ace level.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a 1A guy. This is if you got a better pitcher, maybe that guy throws the wild card game, but this guy lines up to pitch game 1 of the series. This could be a dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave him up for Tim Hampton?
Yeah. I don't know. I can tell you, I've tried to acquire Sixto from both Colorado and Toronto because even with all the young pitchers I have, this guy could be, the ace there. And I just don't see the value in, don't know if I see the equal value in Hampton in that return.
Now, the one thing I did want to look at is how did he look, when he was a $5 million guy? Are we now kind of blowing it out of the water because he's developed well, or is this a guy who hasn't made, many strides? Just taking a look here, the OSA update has his stuff going from 65 to 70, which certainly is an improvement. That was due to a velocity jump of about a mile per hour. And his current stuff and his current control did go up. But, I mean, even at 65, 55, 65, that's a really solid pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
When he gets up to the 70 that he's currently at, because he's pumping 99, this is potentially a dude. I don't think that there was many people who said said last year that they thought he was a bad $5 million signing, but I certainly think this is one that's worked out. And then the last one was Juan Soto, who is with the Dodgers. Just of note, all 3 of the $5 million signings were with NL West teams, potentially them trying to one-up each other. And I'll be honest, I think the Dodgers got the best end of the deal.
Yeah, Juan Soto definitely looks like is the best of them. I'm just looking.
He's going to play better defense than Eloy,
mm-hmm.
which, I'll be honest, not the toughest thing in the world to do. He is being moved along at a much better pace. He played 53 games last year in high A, so 2 levels above where Eloy was at. He started this year there. They kind of quickly moved him past there. He had done well during winter ball. It was more of just all right, let's get you back into things, make sure everything's, working properly. And he showed that he could handle the league, which, he struggled just a touch last year. And he's now in Double-A. Scouts who maybe hadn't seen him since the international signing are a lot higher on him now. I know personally my scout sees him as probably the best hitter in the minor leagues. There's maybe 1 or 2 others who could fight for that distinction. But he reminds me a lot of a Richard Fowler, my right fielder. Great contact, 70, but 65 across the board, except for avoid Ks, which is only at 60.
Yeah, my scout's not quite as high as yours, but I mean, he still has him as one of the best hitting prospects in the minors. So I mean, he looks like he can end up being a really great piece, and he could definitely be the best of the 3.5 millions last year.
Yeah, and it is something to note. He has taken a decent little jump up. Last year around this time, I had him, or OSA had him at 60, 55, 50. They now have him at 60, 60, 50, and that was at the start of the season, February 20th. Scouts have been a little bit higher on him. My most recent update on June 1st was where I saw a pretty sizable jump. So it'll be interesting the next time OSA gets a look at this guy, if they also believe that this is legit, or if this is, maybe my scout got there on a weekend where he was a little hot. But going back, like we said, we've got 2 signings this year already for $5 million. Which one would you like to break down first?
I'm interested in Urias to start.
All right, let's do it. Again, this is Dodgers. It looks like, I'm not going to say I know what his strategy is, but I really think Sam might be just spending all of his budget on one player each time, hoping essentially to get a new first-round draft pick, essentially. You got your first-rounder, but now you get another first-rounder. Rather than trying to spread it around and, hope that one of them pops off, you go for the guy that your scout's most in love with, drop the $5 million, and go home. I'm a little torn on him. I don't necessarily think Urias is, the guy, but this is definitely a dude who could become a pretty decent major leaguer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he already has 2 pitches that could be, 65 potential with 2 more right there at 60. So, I mean, having a 4-pitch mix with above average pitches is really good. But I don't know if I think $5 million. I'm like, when I see his stats.
I think the big thing here is you're definitely buying the floor and not the ceiling. He is 22. He is very close to being fully developed. Probably starting in at least AA, maybe higher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he sniffs the major leagues this year, but I don't think it would be outlandish to say that he's definitely major league camp and spring training next year, possibly fighting for a rotation or a long man role. This is a guy who's pretty ready to come up and compete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the difference. Is this is a different buy than some of the prospects.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting. I don't know. I think maybe $3 million is what I would have spent. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit more frugal than the Dodgers. And if their scout is in love with him and they are along the, $5 million to the best guy that we have, then this makes sense. But I don't know if I agree that he was the $5 million guy. The other signing was Alejandro Pai for the Braves. My scout did get a chance to scout him. Cole, what about yours?
Yeah, he was one of the guys I kind of flagged early to get my scouts on him.
And I think rightfully so. The reports that we were hearing out of the DR were this is a guy who could more than likely stick at shortstop and would provide exceptional power from the right side at a premier position while adding pretty good bat-to-ball skills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he just had a down weekend the week that our scouts were down there, but my scout certainly does not agree. The power may be there. This is a pretty lean 17-year-old, 6'4", 185 pounds, but he certainly has the ability to put on some weight. Maybe that results in a move to third. Maybe that ends up sticking him at first. If he does put on that weight, it's a big, long swing, good trajectory, good path. You're looking at, maybe a 15 to 20 home run guy, but certainly didn't think that he had the foot speed to stay at shortstop. Certainly didn't think that he had the bat to ball skills that would even argue for 260 in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see. I mean, my scout when he went down there, he didn't come back with glowing reviews of this guy's worth $5 million.
My scout came back with the question of, "Are you sure this is the guy you wanted me to scout?"
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Herb has said that his scout actually hadn't filed a report on him.
Mm-hmm.
He was purely going off of OSA. We've seen times that works out splendidly. We've seen times that works out complete dog shit. It'll be interesting to see maybe this time next year where Pye's at. If he makes his stateside debut this year,
mm-hmm.
if he stays at the international complex and continues to work out there, maybe add some pounds and develop that swing a little bit before coming over. But I'd have to assume with a $5 million guy, he's stateside tomorrow.
Yeah, you would think so. And he is definitely going to be one of those guys that you watch to see, how he develops, especially with that kind of money, seeing if he's going to really pan out to be worth it or not.
Absolutely. We also had one other big signing, $4 million. What Mitch said was his max, probably due to budget, was Luis Garcia, second baseman, also out of the DR. The lefty bat, righty thrower, 19, a little bit more developed. We'll probably see him in short season ball, maybe pushes for full season. It'll be interesting to see where Mitch does end up sending him. A pretty high floor, not really a great ceiling. You're looking at an everyday second baseman tops.
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably looking at a everyday second baseman floor.
Yeah. There's nothing that really jumps out at you when looking at it, but there's nothing that you look at that's that really scares you with him as well. He's just consistent. I had him, I didn't actually get a chance to get my scout on him, but so I'm going off OSA's ratings on this, but there's consistent contact and gap power, but
yeah, I think maybe the only concern is the home run power, but again, if he's going to be playing second, you don't need it. He actually looks like a guy who maybe could slide over and fill in at shortstop from time to time,
mm-hmm.
But second base is definitely where he'll stick more than likely. Couple of other signings, 3.6 to Brian Rocchio, the Venezuelan switch hitting shortstop. Defense has never been his favorite to work on, but I believe you like his bat.
Yeah, he fit the mold. He was one of the best guys we scouted of what we're looking for. Guys with really good contact and then who aren't going to strike out. My scout was really high on his avoiding strikeouts. A little more than I think OSA, but it was definitely a guy we were keeping an eye on and would have liked to have had an organization, but wasn't willing to spend that kind of money on.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably a pretty solid get for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Dominguez signed. I haven't been able to scout him. Arizona is usually pretty good about identifying the youngsters. It'll be interesting to see where he's at in the next couple years. And then the Yankees got Franmil Reyes, 24-year-old. So definitely, I believe the oldest in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Big power potential, limited defensive potential, limited contact skills, big strikeout. That guy that you take a chance on for $2.5 million?
You're betting here that he can, when he does hit the ball, it's going a long way, and you can, cash in off those home runs. So it's an interesting, but I think he's definitely a guy you could take a chance on there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to dive too much into the on-sign guys this podcast. Next time we do it, we'll probably touch on a few of the more of the bigger signings. There's certainly going to be a few who are up there of $3 million plus. It seems like we're going to have a pretty active international period. Looks like it's going to be a lot of guys. Almost every team probably getting someone, as opposed to last year where I think it was not quite that many. One of the other things I wanted to touch on in this podcast was just like what to expect from each division.
Mm-hmm.
Your choice. We're going AL or NL.
Let's start AL.
All right, we're going top to bottom. We're going bottom top.
Top bottom.
All right, we'll go AL East. We're starting. Gonna cut out a few teams very quickly. Yankees have sold off everyone and may continue to sell Tommy Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore already given up on Aiken. I don't see much else there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Red Sox have kind of stood pat. They didn't have a ton to sell, but 17.5, they're way too far out of it. There's, still 8 games under. They're not in contention whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to Tampa, who currently has a 1-game lead in the wild card,
mm-hmm.
and Toronto, who I believe is the best record in baseball right now. Who do you think wins the division?
Toronto. Just looking at what Toronto has done this year, this is their year. They've gone all in to acquire these pieces, and a lot of them have ended up producing for them. Mm. So I think they can outlast the Rays. The bigger
question is, does Sixto Sanchez end this season in Toronto's organization?
No.
I would have to agree. I think that there's a chance that everyone is gone, including their first round picks from this year, which I believe they've already gotten rid of their first overall to you. They did.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be more than surprised if Grayson Rodriguez and Jeremy Kinney's already gone. Sorry. Grayson Rodriguez is the only one of their top 3 rounds that is still in the organization. I would be amazed if him and Sixto Sanchez are still in the organization come the end of the season.
Yeah.
I'd also just like to point out, this team could be way better, too, if they had Pineda and Villette, who are both out for another 7 months. Add on top of that, Drew Pomeranz has been out for a while, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've dealt with a raft of pitching injuries. Hence why they're maybe not as good as they could be.
Mm-hmm.
They're 7th in runs against, not ideal, not necessarily the team that you're picking to win the playoffs where runs are at a premium. But that would have allowed them to go out and spend some of this prospect bank on different needs, especially the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
We got to remember they did just get Josh Johnson, who has been electric all season. Is that going to be the game-changing piece?
I don't know if he puts them over the top to winning the World Series. He's definitely going to solidify them and their quest for the AL East title, coming down the stretch here. He's a good piece, but I don't know if he's the one that, gets them that championship.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll go AL Central, Rocky versus Aiden,
mm-hmm.
Battle of the Century. Minnesota probably has the better team on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota has made the trades to get the big guns. They're still 4 games back. They are currently 2.5 out of the wild card. What do you think ends up happening? Do they move more? They've still got more. They've got Jordan Adele,
mm-hmm.
who could certainly bring back a nice piece. They've got Jim Helms. They've got Paul Hill. They've got Tate Halleck, who was, one of the bigger names in this last year's draft. I mean, they've got the pieces to go out and maybe get a big piece. Do you foresee them doing that?
No, I don't think so. I don't. If with them, I believe he's made some pretty big trades already and acquired his pieces. So if it is going to be a trade, it'll be someone, a smaller deal. But I think they come back. I think Minnesota wins the division.
But do you think Cleveland makes the playoffs? Can they oust either Tampa Bay or Seattle, who currently sit in the playoffs, or the wild card spots? You think they get there?
Yes. Yes, I think Cleveland does. Simply for it's tough because...
The only downside of that is the fact that if Cleveland then won the wild card game, more than likely they're not facing Minnesota, as it's going to be Los Angeles or Toronto with the best record, more than likely.
Right.
But that would be the most epic playoff series that would result in potentially a crashing of the Slack app due to the amount of shit talking between these two.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Tampa is going to be hard to beat because they're going to have a lot of games left with that division. Seattle's...
But when we're talking about the division, I mean, Cleveland and Minnesota still get Detroit and Kansas City,
right,
who are, slightly worse than New York and Baltimore, but the difference is the Red Sox are a little bit worse than the White Sox. I mean, it's pretty equal throughout.
Yeah.
The big thing is going to come down to the games against the other playoff teams and the games against each other.
Right.
Moving to the AL West, we have Athletics are well out of it. Houston's actually played their way into some teams calling them a buyer. That's unlikely, but we'll see.
Is that an inside source telling you that information there on Houston?
Yeah. Get, used to date a girl who works in the offices, and but Houston's 5 back of the wild card. Texas is 3 back of the wild card. Seattle is in the wild card, and the Angels lead the division and are 2 games back of the best record in baseball. Are you bold enough to predict a division winner?
My bold prediction would be the Angels win it. It's not bold, but...
It's not bold, but the Angels do have areas for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
The runs scored first, batting average first, OBP first, home runs third, stolen bases second. Then we get to where they're a little bit off. 6th in runs against, which is mainly due to 7th in starters ERA. More than likely, they do need to acquire a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to do it?
Yes. I believe they will acquire someone. I've heard they've been active so far in trying to acquire pieces, and then...
I've heard potentially Aiken, I've heard potentially Appel, I've heard potentially Johnson, I've heard potentially Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Appel goes down for the rest of the year. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening there. Aiken's already traded to Atlanta, and Johnson to what I would say is probably the Angels' biggest competitor in Toronto.
Yeah.
And Miller stays pat currently in Milwaukee. It'll be interesting. The Angels do have the farm system to go out and get a piece and not hurt their farm system. Not that they ever need to use a farm system. Their entire Major League roster is like 22. But they have the farm system that they could go out and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Who finishes second in the division? And do they make the wild card?
That's tough.
I mean, you've said you think Tampa makes the wild card. You've said you think Cleveland makes the wild card. That does leave the AL West out.
Yes. Now, the problem is the AL West is the best division, which means you have Houston, Texas, and Seattle, and essentially Los Angeles, all fighting, for two spots.
We know that the Angels are in first in this division, but they're up by 3.5 games.
Mm-hmm.
They just played the 4th best team in the division, the Astros. We lost 2 games by a total of 5 runs. These aren't the games that the Angels were playing against the Astros last year. These aren't the games that they were even playing with the Rangers last year. As the Rangers were decent last year, but they're better this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Angels are so used to these games outside of when they faced Pat Crosby last year, where they would get somehow shut out on 1-run ball, but they were used to winning 10 or 11 runs,
mm-hmm.
maybe more. This year, they're working for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're proving themselves. They have won these games. This might be the best Angels team we've ever seen. But is this, 162-game grind going to be a difference for them? And is it something they can sustain all the way through?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some question marks there. I think I got to agree with you. The Angels do go on to win the division. I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest the Mariners do not win the wild card.
Yeah, I mean,
Soz has mentioned that he's willing to sell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he moves any of these big pieces that he's, dangled out there. But I think Soz does know he's got the farm system ready, maybe a year, 2 years away. He's got the young major league pieces, enough of them. Gets rid of a guy or two, brings in a couple more prospects. The Rangers are currently a dead farm system. They have 1, maybe 2 pieces left. They are likely going to use them this year.
Yeah.
The Rangers, I think, slip in and take that second wild card.
Mm-hmm.
But I will predict a game 163 versus Tampa, with a game 164 facing the Indians. I don't know. I see it happening. We'll find out. We'll move. That was such like and podcast is done. But we're gonna continue. National League. We'll go to the East again. All teams are within 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, all are more than 6.5 out of the wild card. They're currently 4.5 out of the division at best. But the Mets sit 4th in the wild card, Nationals 5th, Miami 6th, and Phillies 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Can any of those 4 make a run at the wild card?
Well, the Mets are going to win the division, so you don't have to worry about them making a run at the wild card.
Just days after they've had a veteran player request a trade, you predict that they go on to win the division. Why do you think that? Is this a collapse out of Atlanta, or is this
Atlanta has made it clear that they're willing to move big pieces.
But will they? Their biggest piece was Appel. Appel is out for 8 to 9 months. Going into a free agency year, it'll be interesting. Potentially the Braves re-sign him, mm-hmm. especially if they do hold on to him through the deadline. It'll be interesting when it gets around to late September, if his extension demands have dropped, if they maybe get their ace to return on a lower contract.
You've stated all really good things, but the one thing you haven't stated is he can't help them this year.
Appel cannot.
We're talking about
But Appel can do one thing. Appel is able to be traded, similar to Steven Strasburg last year, to a different team who is simply trying to buy low and re-sign the injured player basically, and Hines, his logic behind it last year was my best chance at re-signing this guy is with no one else bidding when he is on the IL, and no one you have all of the negotiating rights. I don't know if Atlanta gets any major league pieces back, but I think they certainly can try. He can't help them. But you also got to remember, he can't help them. They just got Brady Aiken now. I mean, this is the former number 1 overall pick playing for dog shit Baltimore this year. But, I mean, last year he was a 2-WAR guy who was 15-5. The year before, 2.8. I mean, this is potentially a dude. Maybe needed a little change of scenery. It's not like they're really losing anything with Appel down. They're getting Aiken.
My thought is that they're going to, I figured they're going to get rid of some of their pieces. I'm like, I know he's shopped Appel and Cabanas, these guys, and it's one of those things where I think he knows where he stands compared to the other teams in the league and values the future more than he does the now right now. And so he's going to sell these pieces, and the team's not going to be as good. I
do like that you brought up the right now. Brenton is famous for trading the major league pieces for like 39 prospects and then throwing those 39 prospects around the league to bring back a full major league winning team. This could be the plan again because it hasn't ever worked out for him. At some point, you think you've got to try something else. But I will go back. The only way that Seattle makes the playoffs is if they, dig deep into their pockets, which are full of plenty of prospects, and trade for Armando Cabanas. They already missed out on Jose Gonzalez, despite actually originally maybe having a better offer, but due to some miscommunications, they ended up losing out. Then you had, they did not go after Esteban. They haven't gone after pitching, although I don't think they need pitching. Cabanas is the guy in the league. This is your MVP guy. Realistically on pace for yet another MVP award, 8.7 WAR projected for the season. Seattle could certainly go out and get that. They've got a really great, number 1 overall prospect in Jared Stevens. They've got, a couple of center fielders, couple of pitchers, couple of left fielders, couple of shortstops. They've got it all. They could put together a 10 prospect package, probably better than any other team. The only other teams that maybe will be able to compete with them, and this is going off of the poll that I had run a couple weeks ago, Arizona ranked number 1 farm system. Theirs is really top heavy, so you're going off of a guarantee that those top couple of guys do make it if you were to trade with them. Chicago has gotten some votes, the White Sox that is. They're loaded, especially on the pitching prospect side. Milwaukee has gotten some votes after the big trades they've made. Houston is still valued by some around the league in that top 3. Seattle, I think the Angels maybe have a chance, but Seattle's probably the one team that would do it, and I think so's Wood if it means beating Matt, if it means beating Mitch. Everyone wants to shut Mitch up this year. It'll be really interesting to see if maybe this is the time that Cabanas does get moved with Appel going down. Or if the injury simply forces Brenton's hand and he says, I've now got to give the extension to Cabanas, which he's already done once. Illegal extension, no real penalties, but Cabanas is not signed to an extension.
Right.
Moving on to the Central, this is almost...
Do we need to talk about it?
Are any of these 5 teams going to make the playoffs?
I mean, one has to, and it's...
The only reason that one has to is that it is in the rules that the division winner from each division makes it.
Yeah.
Again, it'll be a real test to see St. Louis in playoff series going against the other top teams and figuring out if they're a byproduct of a shitty division or if they are for real.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Cincinnati has turned it on of late. They're just 4 back of the wild card.
Yeah. But
they've already traded everyone.
Yeah, this is what they have right now is probably unless they trade Owen, there's not a lot.
Which they've been very clear, Owen will not be going anywhere. I'd also just like to touch on Owen. They do have him as a two-way player. He's already on his 3rd level of the season, currently in the Florida State League, the High A League. He is pitching and he is hitting. In 16 at-bats in High A, he's batting .312 with 1 home run. That's his 3rd of the season. As a pitcher, he's gotten 2 starts, 6.1 innings. He's given up 1 earned run, 6 hits, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. So the strikeout number's not there, but they are using him as a two-way player, and you love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, I don't think Cincinnati has a shot at the wild card.
So, if Cincinnati's going to make the playoffs, it's by winning the division.
Yeah, even like 4.5 back is doable, and especially when you look at the fact that the Dodgers, Giants, and Rockies are all beating up on each other, all within 1.5 games of each other. Those 3 teams are so clearly better than the Reds. The Reds have sold their best piece. I don't see it happening. I'm really sorry, but NL West, I think all 3 get in.
Yeah.
Colorado is as good as they're ever going to be. They are 8th in runs against, but their pitching has been great as far as this season goes. You really can't ask for any more from a team that's playing in that barn box. Their hitting is amazing, both home and away. I think they're the best team. I think they go on to win the division.
Except for Hampton. Hampton is not hitting.
Hampton's also not starting. They gave up Sixto Sanchez for a bench piece.
Yeah.
I will not let them live that down.
Yeah.
Sorry, but San Francisco is a little interesting. They've tried to sell not their closer, their setup man. Their hitting has been great this year. Their pitching, not so much, but they have not gone out and made the trade for it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the pieces to go out and make the trade for it.
No.
Their big trade was a while back, trading and getting Bob Carlisle.
Mm-hmm.
But they also just traded Anthony Hale. Is this a team that doesn't think that they were going to make it? Or is there hope that Juan Ibarra and Carson Fulmer and Emilio Martinez are the guys who come in and make that push?
This is definitely addressing a need. This is trading away one of their hitters for pitching. Which can help, but I don't know if this is it is a kind of confusing move on whether they are really going for it.
Yeah, Hale's a guy who's produced nonstop for several straight seasons.
Right.
His major league debut in 2017, 4.8 WAR, not even a full season, 6.9 WAR last year, and 3.3 this year through 94 games. This dude was killing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand.
Yeah, it's.
And then you've got the Dodgers. They just went out. They made the acquisition to get the one piece of first baseman in which they were missing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a couple more pieces if they really do desire to go out and make that game-changing move. Jerry McDonald, who is possibly the best power-hitting catcher in the minors. Juan Soto, who we discussed already. They've got some pieces. They could go out and make that big trade. I personally want to see them do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for them to make that trade, to have them compete with Colorado and to see those two, just fight.
This is a team, I think on paper, you'd have to say Colorado is by far and away the better team.
Mm-hmm.
But the Dodgers are 1.5 back. They have one less win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to assume they play each other more than enough the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
This could get fun if they decide to make that trade.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see those three, Colorado, San Francisco, and LA battle this out for the rest of the year. And, to see if them battling out ends up having one of them be out.
Yeah.
Because you do have the NL East that could have a team, get hot here in the second half and make it. You do have the Reds, who are 8 games over 500, who could beat up on their division enough to make it into the playoffs. So are those 3 teams going to play one of them out? Play one of them out? The only
thing is, I don't think the Dodgers can get hurt if they do acquire a piece. Maybe they still don't beat the Rockies and maybe they lose to the Giants, but they should end up beating up on the rest of the teams they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun. I think, it's interesting because it seems like the playoff spots are, the 8 spots, and I think it's down to basically 9 teams already, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be fun. There's a lot of teams that have made some potentially franchise-altering trades this year. I think there's maybe more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing, World Series prediction. Who do you have?
That's tough. But I'm gonna go a little bold. Which, how can it be bold if they have the best record in baseball? But Toronto, they make it to the World Series, but they lose.
Hold on. Are you predicting the National League's first ever World Series win in MLB Pro?
Yes.
You're such a National Leaguer.
Sorry. I have to. But I think they lose to the Rockies.
Which, the irony in that would be absolutely amazing, as Mitch did build some of the Rockies roster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it's all of it. There's been a decent number of trades and, changes and obviously all that since then. But even some of the trades that have been made were because of pieces in the farm system that were brought in by Mitch, etc. This is not Mitch's team by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But Mitch did, sculpt the clay a little bit before the finishing touches were brought on and finished out and, put into the oven.
Mm-hmm.
It would be one hell of a story, because how could he possibly be upset about losing? He showed that he could realistically build a winning team.
Yeah.
But also he didn't win.
Right.
I'd love to see that. Personally, I'm going to go differently. I'm going Texas Rangers versus LA Dodgers.
Ooh.
Rangers win.
Are you saying 2 wild card teams, or do they win the
2 wild card teams? Texas wins it. James Caprillion starts 3 games in the series, 3-0, 0.00 ERA.
Some mad bum numbers right there.
That is some mad bum numbers. He then immediately gets traded in the offseason for 39 prospects. Clearly, it was Colorado who offered him.
Yeah.
They need that piece to finish out the Dodgers, and he goes on to never quite be the same. But that's going to be my prediction.
Yeah.
Until next time, absolutely no idea when that's going to be, but we'll try our best sometime in the next couple weeks. Discuss more international signings and trade deadline.
Yeah.
12 days away?
Mm-hmm.
And, what possible moves are made there, what teams should have bought that didn't buy, what teams should have sold that didn't sell, and, maybe a little bit better of an idea as to what the playoff picture is going to look like.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.